Self-sabotage is one of the most confusing parts of making changes, any changes, but especially when we're trying to lose weight. And I think everybody has sabotaged themselves at some point in time. It's a pretty normal thing to do. And in spite of what we tell ourselves, it's not always as simple as being self-disciplined or having willpower, but actually, we usually self-sabotage due to underlying psychological reasons. If we think about this logically for a second, if we want something so badly, in this case, to lose weight, what could have such a strong driving force within us to make us continue to do things in direct opposition to our goal? That's the question. It makes no logical sense, right? If we can understand and accept that the human mind always takes action to give a result, the question then becomes, what result is my subconscious mind trying to achieve here? I hope that makes sense. If we can't figure out why we're self-sabotaging, the cycle will just continue. But once we see the real reason we do things, we can't unsee it. So today, we're going to look at some of the most common reasons I've heard while working with clients over the years. And I'm sure you'll see some of these in yourself because none of us are immune to self-sabotage. If we haven't met yet, my name's Gina. I am a nutritionist who helps people to lose weight and keep it off by focusing on nutrition, metabolism, and our mind, things like self-sabotage. If you would like a free GLP-1 weight loss ebook that I've put together, you can grab it below, but stick around because there is some life-changing information in this video for you. So grab your ebook after we're done. Okay, so the one I want to start with is the one that nobody really talks about. And it's not fear of failure, it's actually fear of success. So let me explain. I had a client once who said something to me that stopped me in my tracks. She said, if I lose this weight, I won't have any more excuses. I will actually have to go and live my life. And she was right. She'd been using her body as a reason, as an excuse to stay safe, to stay small, to stay hidden. And I think underneath all of that was really a fear of rejection, a fear of the world not accepting her as she is. And I know with this particular client, she did grow up in a very tough household, which is at the core of all of this stuff, right? That's where her stuff came from. So for her, she kept on eating unconsciously to basically keep the risk out of her life. Her relationships, her career, everything was suffering. Losing weight meant no more safety net for her. And that was terrifying for her. And this one is more common than you might think, actually. Success means change. It means people will see you differently. It means your relationships might shift. It means you have to deal with things that you've been putting off for a long time, probably. The uncomfortable feelings that might come along, the intimidating goals that you've set for yourself, thinking one day I'll get there. The dreams you've been saying that you'll do one day when I've lost the weight. And so the subconscious mind does something clever. It makes you blow the diet. It keeps you exactly where you are, where it feels safe and familiar. And then there's the one that goes deepest, using food to cope with unresolved, painful experiences. Whether it's a difficult childhood that we've had, a relationship that broke down, a loss that you never really fully got to grieve, our mind has to find a way to deal with these emotional hurts without allowing us to become a basket case rocking in the corner somewhere, right? And food is one of the most common ways that we've learned to soothe ourselves. I mean, if we think about it, food has always been at the center of human nurturing. It's literally how we're nurtured as a baby from the time we're born. The baby cries and mum feeds us, right? It's nurturing. So it's not surprising that when we're hurting emotionally, we reach for food to nurture ourselves. And sometimes food is much easier than crying, really. I think we've all felt that way at some point or another, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons I gained weight back after 15 years. The emotional hurt from my divorce, I mean, among other things, but that was one big driving factor. Dealing with the grief and the loss that I felt at the time, had I allowed myself to just cry more, I may not have felt the need to stuff down my own feelings the way I did. But the most important thing is this time I was aware of what I was doing and why I was doing it, which makes it much easier to stop when the time comes. We can't out-diet an emotional wound. We need to face the hurt head on. And it's important to remember, healing isn't always linear. We might have a couple of good weeks and then one little slip, and then we're back to having a couple of good weeks. But if we can see what's happening, we can deal with it. Because remember, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're always aware of it. If you find this information helpful, remember to subscribe so you never miss out on a new video. And if you think that this information could help a friend of yours, share it with them too. All right, on to the next one. So guilt and shame are big subconscious drivers of overeating as well. So I'm going to tell you quite a heavy story, and I hope that we can all have compassion for this person rather than judgment. So a client of mine who is really struggling with her adult daughter is using food and alcohol to cope with the stress. So her daughter got caught up with the wrong people and ended up with a serious drug habit. So of course, my client is extremely stressed and has been dealing with this for quite a long time. It's been years now. So she's in a situation where she's worrying endlessly about whether her daughter's safe. Where is she? Who's she with? Has she got food? All this sort of stuff. So you can only imagine how stressful that would be, and prolonged stress over years. After years of tears, worry, guilt, and stress, my client confided in me that she had a thought that she wished her daughter was dead. And I know this client pretty well. This is not her. This is not the real person talking. This is endless stress and worry and hurt and fear all wrapped up in one. She is so overwhelmed. Her mind is looking for a way out. Her mind is simply looking for relief. She is completely emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted. She's very overwhelmed and she feels helpless, like anyone would in that situation, right? But because she thought that thought, just one time she thought it, now she hates herself for even thinking it, and she's eating and drinking to numb the pain of that single thought. I mean, if it's not bad enough that she's got all of this other stuff going on in her life causing her such tremendous stress and worry, now she hates herself and she's ashamed of herself as well. So you can only imagine. So this is a case where she really needs to try and forgive herself and give herself understanding. Once she can forgive herself, I have a feeling that the food and alcohol will just drift away. So let's hope she can get there. Another big one is negative self-talk. I did a video about this not too long ago, and I'll pop it up here for you if you're interested to learn more about that. But the power of how we speak to ourselves, how we see ourselves, and how we allow others to treat us has huge, huge implications for our weight loss journey. Actually, changing the way we speak to ourselves and ultimately how we allow others to treat us is one of the biggest non-scale victories people experience over the long term, because our self-talk is at the heart of our happiness, right? We simply can't be happy if we have low opinions of ourselves. So if you think about this for a moment, if we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, for example, and we actually believe it, that really hurts. And we instinctively want to nurture ourselves. What's the easiest way to do that? Because remember, we are conditioned from birth to nurture ourselves with food. We eat to make the pain go away. Another example is building your identity out of repetitive thoughts. So for example, you might think, I always do this, or I have no discipline, or I can never stick to anything. I've always failed, so I'll continue to fail. And your brain starts to accept those stories as fact, not just a thought. That is a fact in your mind. And then the subconscious makes decisions that reflect that story. You start acting out behaviors directly in line with what you're telling yourself. You're not just thinking negative thoughts, you're building a self-image. And your subconscious will always behave in line with how you see yourself. This is one reason why you can have two people who follow exactly the same plan and get completely different results. The work isn't just the diet and exercise plan. The real work is with our mind. If we really want to solve the problem long term, we need to focus on our mind. Lately, we've got a new phrase going around called food noise, right? We used to call it food obsession or any number of other things, but now it's food noise. And I am willing to bet this one thing, the way we talk to ourselves, is the cause of quite a lot of the food noise that people are experiencing. One thing I've noticed is the number of people who say their food noise comes back. even with a GLP-1. I believe this is partly because our body is adapting to the medication just like it does with most things, and that includes our dopamine pathways. But I also think it's partly because we're not looking at our self-image. We're not noticing what happened in our head just before the food noise struck. If you want to explore food noise in more depth, you can watch this video next. I did a whole breakdown of food noise and different things that can cause it. Another big one is using food to numb stress and just daily life in general. When life is out of control or it feels out of control, especially now with this war going on, that feels out of control. And, life is uncertain and painful. A meal or a snack or just a glass of wine at the end of the day is relaxation. It takes the edge off in that moment. And that's exactly why it's so hard to stop this behavior, nighttime eating. Food is one of the fastest, most accessible mood regulators we have. It releases dopamine quickly, it soothes our nervous system, and for a lot of people, we're living with general unhappiness, loneliness, or we've got no stimulation from our work, our family is a mess, or it could be just fear, like financial fear, fear of loss, fear of what could happen to us. The world is a very scary place if we allow our mind to go down those rabbit holes. In these cases, food is doing a very important job. And as we look at this stuff, can you see how this isn't a willpower problem? It's really a subconscious mind trying to keep us safe. Nighttime eating driven by stress is one of the most common and least talked about patterns in weight loss. When you think about it, you've been on for hours, the entire day. The work, the boss, the idiot colleague who, just makes life harder, the kids, the house, the bills. Is it any wonder by the end of the day and the kids are in bed and the dishes are done, your brain is completely depleted. Any willpower you had is completely gone, most likely, and any logical decisions are out the window. So you decide, I'll just have a cookie, and then it's 3 cookies, and then it's 5 cookies with a glass of wine, and you know how that goes. Not because you're hungry, but because it's the only moment all day that is actually yours. The only time nobody needed anything from you and you had a moment to just decompress. This is not a food problem. It's a life design problem. And fixing it requires a little bit of creative thinking and being self-aware. I had a client who realized she was eating because she was procrastinating. I know, that's a weird one, right? I had never heard that before. She had things she was putting off. She didn't want to do them. They were hard, but the stress of not doing the thing was actually driving her to comfort eat. So once she connected those dots, she realized she didn't need to change her diet. She needed to focus on not procrastinating. Another big one we see all the time, tell me in the comments if this one relates to you, all or nothing thinking. This is the mindset that says, oh, I had a biscuit, I've ruined the day, might as well just eat everything I can find now. I'll start next week, so I'm just going to take the rest of the week off. This sort of thinking is our own mind giving us excuses that started with one tiny little slip, or maybe life got in the way. I mean, who hasn't had that, right? Life gets in the way and you don't have time to do your workout that day, but it's all in the way that we react. If you allow your mind to give you excuses like, well, I've screwed it up now, I'll just start on Monday, inevitably, it becomes a total collapse. And the reason it's so damaging is that it's the slip that does the least damage. It's usually one little thing and it's our mind doing the real damage. I actually think this is twofold. First, we have the dopamine hit from the little slip, like imagine you've had a little tiny bit of chocolate or something, especially if you've been a food addict like me. One hit, and just like any addict, you want more and more. But the other side is the thought process that goes with it, which is a very addictive type of thinking in itself. It's letting ourselves off the hook. Oh, well, I had a nibble on some chocolate, so now I can do that for the next 5 days, or one of my old favorite thoughts that used to run through my head constantly, I'll eat this now and I'll start over tomorrow. Well, do you know what? I was waiting for tomorrow for 10 years. Yeah. Funny how our mind works. So I hope you can see by some of these examples that self-sabotage isn't weakness. It's just our mind and our body doing exactly what they were designed to do, protecting us and keeping us safe from a perceived threat. The reason diets don't work long-term for most people isn't about the food. It's because no diet can address any of what we've just talked about. We really do need to look at the real cause of our actions in the first place. What is really driving us to eat when we don't need to? Once we understand what's really going on under the surface, we can solve the real problem. And that is where we find lasting weight loss. If any of this has resonated with you, check out my private members area. We go through how to reset your metabolism. We look at nutrition so that you know everything you need to know about nutrients and which ones you need and which ones you don't. And then we also look at how to retrain your mind for lasting weight loss. Because everything we do is directed by a thought, right? So it's probably the most important part of any weight loss program. Anyway, I will pop the link in the description below so you can check it out if you're interested. And I'll pop these videos here for you to watch next. I will see you in there.
Smarter Nut Nutrition.